What would you do if the happiest announcement of your life ended with you on the floor, blood in your mouth, and 40 people staring at you like you were the villain? 2 years. That's how long my husband Marcus and I had been trying for a baby. 2 years of disappointment staring back at me every month, quietly wondering if my body was broken. So when I finally saw those two lines show up dark and unmistakable, I sat on the bathroom tile and shook until my sister Naomi talked me through it on the phone. "You don't tell people like this over spaghetti," she said. "You give them a night they'll never forget." 3 weeks later, my backyard was strung with lights, and every person who mattered to me stood in my living room. My parents by the drinks table, Naomi practically vibrating with the secret, Marcus's parents in from out of state, and his younger brother Dean, who'd shown up 2 hours early to help set chairs, dependable as always. Marcus worked that crowd like it was made for him. Big laugh, easy handshake, the same charm that had pulled me in the first time I met him. I watched him from the kitchen doorway and thought, tonight I get to hand him the best gift of his life. I tapped a fork against my glass. The room hushed. 40 faces turned toward me. My mother's eyes were already wet and she didn't even know why yet. Marcus crossed the room, slid his arm around my waist, looked at me with this open, clueless warmth. I took a breath. "We're having a baby!" The room detonated. My mom screamed. My dad clapped so hard his hands must have stung. Naomi was jumping like she'd won something. Hugs everywhere, that electric kind of joy you can actually feel on your skin. I turned to Marcus, expecting him to lift me off my feet. Instead, he was a statue, arm gone from my waist, face drained of every ounce of color. "Marcus?" I reached for him. "Aren't you happy? We're finally—" That's when his hand caught the side of my face so hard the room tilted sideways and I went crashing into the gift table. Pain lit up my whole skull like a struck match. Someone cut the music mid-song, and then there was nothing but ringing in my ear and dead silence in a room that had been cheering 10 seconds earlier. I looked up from the floor at a man I didn't recognize. "You lying whore!" he spat, chest heaving, fists shaking at his sides. "You thought I wouldn't figure it out?" I couldn't even form words. My cheek was on fire. "Marcus, what are you? I've never cheated on you. Never." He laughed, and it was an ugly, broken sound. "Stop lying to my face, Elena. That baby isn't mine. It can't be mine. I had a vasectomy 4 years ago, before we even got married. 4 years. He let me cry over negative test after negative test for 2 straight years, knowing this whole time it was never going to happen with him. The betrayal of that fact almost hurt worse than the slap. "So whose is it?" He kept going, louder now, spit flying. "Who have you been sleeping with? How long has this been going on?" Nobody in that room moved. My mother had both hands clamped over her mouth. My father looked like he wanted to put his fists through a wall but couldn't get his legs to cooperate. And then someone was crouched beside me, gentle hands checking my shoulders, brushing broken glass off my dress. Dean. His face had gone pale as paper, staring at his own brother like he didn't know him anymore. "What is wrong with you?" Dean said, voice shaking. "You just hit your pregnant wife in front of everyone in this house." He got me to my feet and planted himself between me and Marcus like a wall. Marcus paced like something caged, hands raking through his hair, and then he spun to face the crowd, arms flung wide. "Look at her, standing there playing innocent. She knows exactly whose baby that is." So there I stood, face throbbing, my whole family watching, branded a cheater by my own husband. A husband who had proof I couldn't argue with, because in his mind, a vasectomy made this pregnancy scientifically impossible unless I'd been unfaithful. I demanded a paternity test on the spot. 7 days until results. 7 days to prove I hadn't done what everyone now believed. I had no idea those 7 days would be the worst of my entire life, or that the people who loved me would turn on me faster than I could blink. Everyone left without a word. Coats. Grabbed, eyes down, the door closing over and over like a slow drumbeat. My father hugged me so tight it hurt before he left and whispered that he'd end Marcus if I gave the word. I shook my head. I still believed, stupidly, that this was some horrible misunderstanding that would resolve itself. When the house finally emptied, Marcus walked straight past me toward the guest room. "Please," I said, my voice smaller than I wanted. "I haven't touched another man in 6 years. There has to be another explanation." "Another explanation for how you got pregnant by a man who can't have kids?" He laughed, cold and hollow. "I'd love to hear it." I had nothing but my own word, and my word meant nothing to him now. "Fine," he finally said when I demanded the test. "Again. Tomorrow. First thing." We sat in that clinic waiting room like strangers at a bus stop, 4 chairs apart, his jaw locked so tight I could see the muscle jump. The nurse told me results would take 7 to 10 business days. By day 2, his family had found their voices. His mother. "I always knew you were trouble." His sister. "I hope you lose it." An aunt sent a paragraph about warning Marcus not to marry me. A cousin sent a photo from the party captioned like a punchline. People who'd hugged me at every holiday for 6 years were now wishing harm on a baby that hadn't even been born. I turned my phone off. Naomi found me still in bed that afternoon and climbed in beside me like we were kids again. "Leave him," she said softly. "He hit you in front of witnesses. You have a case." My parents said the same that night. Everyone did. Leave him. Sue him. Make him pay. But I couldn't move yet. Not until the test cleared my name, because then everything would go back to how it was supposed to be. It had to. I lay awake that night with my hand on my stomach, trying to feel something solid. Some proof. This was real and mine and innocent. Instead, all I felt was doubt creeping in like fog. What if he was right? What if there was some explanation I couldn't see? I replayed every night of the last 3 months and none of it made sense. I knew I hadn't cheated. I knew it in my bones. But if Marcus really couldn't father a child, whose baby was growing inside me? On day 4, Dean showed up at my door holding takeout. I hadn't showered in 2 days. He didn't flinch, didn't comment, just waited until I let him in. We ate at the kitchen table, him filling silence with harmless stories. Nothing that required anything of me except to exist in the same room. When I finally broke down crying, he pulled his chair closer and let me fall apart. "I didn't do anything wrong," I sobbed. "I've never been with anyone but your brother." "I believe you," he said quietly. "You're not that person. Anyone who's spent 5 minutes with you knows that." I cried harder, because after 4 days of being treated like a criminal, someone had finally just believed me. He stayed 2 more hours, made sure his number was saved in my phone, hugged me at the door and told me to call any hour. I watched his taillights disappear and felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. 3 more days crawled by. Marcus and I lived in the same house like 2 ghosts who couldn't see each other. Gone before I woke, home after I'd fallen asleep, the guest room door clicking shut every night, the only proof he still existed there. Sometimes I stood outside that door with my hand raised to knock and never did. What would be the point? He'd already decided who I was. When the mail truck finally pulled up on day 7, I'd been watching from the window like I had every afternoon. That week. I ran out barefoot on cold concrete. Didn't care. Grabbed the envelope before the mailman could even reach the box. Clinic logo. My name. My entire future folded into a single sheet of paper. I called Dean first. I don't fully know why. Maybe because he was the only person who'd believed me without conditions. He said he'd be there in 10 minutes and told me to wait. I knocked on the guest room door. Nothing. Knocked again. "The results are here. I want you to see this yourself." Footsteps, then silence, then finally the lock clicked. Marcus looked hollowed out, thinner, paler, dark circles, under his eyes like he hadn't slept either. For half a second I felt something like pity. Then I remembered the slap, and it evaporated. He sat at the table, arms crossed, waiting. I set the envelope between us like it might detonate. Neither of us touched it. Dean arrived minutes later, nervous in a way that surprised me, eyes flicking to the envelope and back to my face. He sat closer to me than to his brother. "Whatever it says," he murmured, taking my hand. "I'm not going anywhere." Marcus's eyes locked onto our joined hands, and something dark crossed his face. "Seriously? I'm sitting right here." I yanked my hand back and stood so fast, the chair screeched. "Don't you dare twist this. Your brother has been the only kind thing in my life this week, while you've treated me like garbage. Just open it, Elena," he said flatly. "I don't have—" "All day." I broke the seal. The tearing sounded impossibly loud. I read it once. Didn't process it. Read it again. Still didn't make sense. By the 3rd read, the paper was shaking in my hands. "What does it say?" Marcus demanded. "Say it out loud." I looked at the man I'd loved for 6 years, waiting to hear me confirm everything he already believed. "It says you're not the father." His face didn't even flicker with surprise. "And there it is," he said, calm now, like a storm that had finally blown itself out. "So who is it? Someone from work? An old boyfriend you never got over?" He stood, leaned across the table until I could count every vein in his neck. "Tell me whose baby I almost raised as my own." "I don't know," I sobbed. "I haven't been with anyone else. There has to be a mistake. The lab, something." He slammed his fist on the table so hard the envelope jumped. "DNA doesn't lie, Elena. The only liar in this room is you." He shoved me back so hard I hit the counter. Dean caught me before I fully fell. Marcus rounded on his own brother next. "And you," holding her hand, comforting her. "Did you know? Have you two been laughing at me?" "I had no idea about any of this," Dean said, steady, though I could feel his pulse hammering, where his arm still held me. Marcus just laughed, cold and final. "Congratulations, she's all yours." He packed 2 suitcases and was gone within 20 minutes, slamming the door so hard the frames on the wall rattled. I collapsed on that kitchen floor and cried until I thought I might come apart at the seams. I knew I hadn't cheated. I knew it with everything in me. So how was I carrying a baby that wasn't his? I called Naomi before sunrise. She was at my door within the hour, face going pale as she read the results, then sat me down at that same table. "Walk me through everything," she said. "Not the party. Before. You're about 11 weeks. That puts conception 9 or 10 weeks back. Is there one night that stands out?" I closed my eyes and pushed through the fog of every failed attempt, every scheduled night, until one memory floated up that I hadn't touched in weeks. "There was one night," I said slowly. "About 9 weeks ago. I woke up because someone was shaking me gently, then kissing my neck. I asked if he was in the mood, and he just hummed, like a yes. I paused, something cold sliding down my spine, as I said it out loud for the first time. It was pitch black. We have blackout curtains. He never said a single word the whole time. Usually Marcus talks to me. That night, nothing, just the hum. Then he rolled over and I passed out again. Naomi went very still. "Elena, are you absolutely certain it was Marcus?" I recoiled like she'd struck me. Of course it was. I was in my own bed. But even as I said it, ice was crawling up my spine. It was completely dark. He never spoke. Just a hum that could have come from anyone. She took my hands. "How do you actually know it was him? That's insane." But my voice was shaking, and underneath the denial, a horrible logic was assembling itself. The darkness, the silence, hands that felt rougher than usual that I'd chalked up to exhaustion. What if it hadn't been him at all? "Oh God," I whispered, grabbing the counter as my legs gave out. Naomi caught me, held me while my whole body shook. "Who has a key to your house, Elena?" she asked quietly. "Besides you two." The answer landed like a truck. Dean. Marcus had given him a spare 2 years back for a vacation, watering plants, feeding the cat, and nobody had ever asked for it back. My mind lit up with every moment of the past week. His certainty I hadn't cheated before any proof existed, showing up unasked, sitting a little too close, a hand on my knee, always there right when I opened those results, holding my hand through the worst moment of my life. "Not Dean," I said, but the pieces were already locking into place, horrible piece by horrible piece. I called Marcus, straight to voicemail, over and over. I grabbed my keys and drove to where he was staying, at his friend Felix's place. He opened the door looking like a ghost of himself. "Go away, Elena, I don't want more lies." I pushed past him. "It wasn't me, but someone got into our house, into our bed, in the dark, and I never knew." I told him everything, the shaking, the hum instead of words, the wrongness I'd talked myself out of because I wanted a baby so badly. "Who else has a key, Marcus?" I watched the realization crash into him in real time. "Dean," he whispered, like the name itself was poison. We drove to Dean's apartment in silence so total I could hear my own heartbeat. When Dean opened the door, there was no shock on his face, just calm. The calm of someone who'd been waiting for this exact conversation his whole life. "Hey," he said, easy, like we'd stopped by for coffee. Marcus grabbed his shirt and shoved him inside. "Tell me what you did to my wife." Dean didn't fight it. He just looked past his brother, straight at me, and something in his eyes made my skin crawl. Hunger, ownership, like he was looking at something he already believed belonged to him. "Elena," he said softly, "I've been waiting so long to finally say this out loud." "Start talking," Marcus growled, fabric bunched in his fists. Dean's mouth curled into a smile I'd never seen on him before. Slow, deliberate, wrong. "I did what you think I did," he said, eyes locked on mine even as he answered his brother. "And I'm not sorry. Not even a little. It's the best decision I ever made. Having a spare key gave me access to everything that used to be mine to begin with. Your house, your wife." He said the word wife like he was savoring it. I'd been tracking Elena's cycle for months. She talked about giving up hope. I couldn't let her keep hurting like that. Marcus's whole body had gone rigid. "Then you got a vasectomy and never told her," Dean went on, almost cheerful. "You let her believe her own body was broken. That's when I knew the universe was handing this to me. You didn't want to be a father, I did." He described the night in flat, chilling detail. Studying our bedroom, knowing the curtains, knowing Marcus slept like the dead after poker nights, slipping in at 3 a.m., humming instead of speaking. Marcus's fist connected with his jaw, so hard the sound cracked off the walls. Dean's head snapped sideways, blood at the corner of his mouth, and he didn't even flinch. He turned back slowly, still smiling. "That felt good, didn't it? Hit me again. None of it changes what's mine now." He spat blood onto the floor. "That baby is my child, the only family I've ever made for myself. You can hate me all you want. You can't take that back." I slid down the wall, Naomi's arms the only thing keeping me upright. listening to a man I'd trusted describe the worst thing that had ever happened to me like it was a love story. 4 years, he said, watching Marcus. Get everything first, and grades, career, me too. 4 years loving me quietly while I never knew. And these past 2 weeks had been the best of his life, holding my hand while secretly being the reason none of it made sense. Then he took a step toward me, and Marcus moved instantly between us. Come with me, Dean said. And I swear he meant it. Genuine hope written across a bloodied face. Tonight, we start over. Raise our baby the way it should have been from the beginning. You're insane, I whispered. Marcus hit him again, and this time Dean went down and Marcus kept swinging until his own knuckles split open, screaming that Dean didn't get to say my name, didn't get to look at me, didn't get to exist near me. Ever again. Dean never once fought back. He just lay there laughing through a bloody, swollen smile, eyes still finding mine over his brother's shoulder. Worth it, he slurred. Every second. For one night you were mine, Elena. Nothing either of you do erases that. I don't remember deciding to scream. I just remember the sound tearing out of me like it belonged to someone else. We called the police that night. They led Dean out in handcuffs while he smiled at me through the back window like he'd won something. I told them everything. Every word he'd said. In front of 2 witnesses who heard it all too. It didn't matter. He had a key. I never said no because I believed I was with my husband. A lawyer actually used the phrase, he said, she said, even with a full confession sitting in a police report. In the end, Dean walked away with a minor charge for unauthorized entry, some check-ins with a probation officer, a fine, no prison. Nothing that would follow him the way that night follows me. Marcus and I tried counseling for 3 weeks. But every time I looked at him, I saw the party, the slap, the word he'd called me in front of 40 people who loved me. He apologized more times than I could count. But some words don't unsay themselves. I filed for divorce. He didn't fight. It. 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I woke at 2 a.m. with pain so sharp I couldn't stand. Naomi drove me to the hospital and the doctor confirmed what the blood already told me. I lost the baby. Part of me felt relief, and I hated myself for feeling it. That baby never asked to be created the way it was. But every time I imagined holding a child and searching its face for a stranger's eyes, I couldn't breathe. Now I didn't have to find out. Now there was nothing left to decide. The guilt of that relief will probably sit with me for the rest of my life. But for now, all I can do is walk forward into whatever comes next, far away from the people who were supposed to protect me and didn't.